Welcome to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio. We are here today with Rebecca Sekulich. She is a Los Angeles real estate agent, and she is on a trip in Florida right now. And I always like to say realtors work from anywhere, vacation or whatever it is, we're always working. So thank you for joining us today, Rebecca. Let's bring her in at the tail end of her trip, and I really appreciate you not canceling. And that's the one thing about realtors. We do not tend to cancel. We try as best as we can to show up. And I think that's one of the things that really makes a successful real estate agent. So welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have you. So I'm going to introduce you and then we're just going to chat, and the hour goes by so fast. I will try to remember to break for a few commercials. Real estate expert, investor, design visionary, and entrepreneur, Rebecca is a trailblazing force in the real estate industry, blending her passion for design with her sharp business acumen to help clients maximize the value of their homes. Her journey began by helping clients transform their properties on micro budgets, personally fronting the costs of remodeling and negotiating payment at the close of escrow. This innovative approach has helped dozens of clients earn significantly more on their home sales than they ever imagined possible. With nearly 80 home remodels under her belt, Rebecca's unique blend of design expertise and market insight has earned her a reputation as the go-to real estate professional for turnkey solutions. Her commitment to helping both buyers and sellers extends beyond the sale, offering post-purchase remodeling guidance that saves clients thousands of dollars while creating move-in ready homes. As a single mom and entrepreneur, Rebecca has built a thriving business from the ground up in a traditionally male-dominated industry. Her inspiring story of resilience includes overcoming the unthinkable, losing 200 pounds over 22 years while simultaneously building a successful business and portfolio of investment properties. Wow, that I read it wrong earlier. I said 20 pounds. I'm like, what kind of a feat is that? Oh my God, that is a feat. Well, you look amazing. You're beautiful, and wow, we do have a lot in common about all of the way we design our homes and help people. And I always try to tell people, after you buy the home, I'll help you on the other side, because we can save them money. And oftentimes people just don't know even a simple light fixture change could make a huge difference. So we'll dig more into that. But first, I always love to hear, there's two things I love about the podcast. One is I love to hear people's stories, and that's why I love real estate. And that's probably why you love real estate, one of the reasons you love real estate. So I love to hear your journey from either high school or college or wherever, and your transition into real estate. And then when I'm asking questions or when we're talking, I'm thinking of myself when I was 25. When I was 25 and I was so lost, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So for all those people, whether they're young and starting out or they're seasoned and they just need some more inspiration, that's kind of the people I have in mind when we're chatting. So with that, let's hear your story, Rebecca.
My gosh, where to begin? That was a lot.
I know.
I didn't even know that was in my intro and my bio. So let's just
Well,
say
thanks
that
to your
things are
assistant.
ever changing and ever evolving. So,
Right.
well, let's see.
Absolutely.
I'm from a nice sized little town called Dearborn, Michigan, outside of Metro Detroit, and that's where I was born and raised and spent most of my life. And went to Dearborn High School, and I went on to Michigan State to college, and I have a crazy degree. My degree is in geography and cartography. So I was a map
Okay.
designer, and I fell in love with it. I was pre-law, like was wanting to go to law school. I'm a lover, not a fighter, and decided that wasn't exactly where I wanted to go. And I also went to the Center for Creative Studies in Detroit and studied three-dimensional design along with like some ceramics and a little bit of architecture and things like that. Don't have a degree from there, but it helped me because I went elementary, junior high, and high school to college. And then I went to the Henry Ford Community College, which is now just the Henry Ford College, before I went to Michigan State to study geography. So what got me to Los Angeles is basically I was a like awesome feminist in college and standing up for women's rights and things like that. And I have a dear friend of mine who wrote a script about a very tender subject about date rape. And she
Mm.
asked me to read it, and I read it. And she basically said, I would love you to help me make this happen. And I read it, I was brought to tears, and spent 4 years of my life in college raising the money with her and with hundreds of people's help. And we were
Wow.
the first 35 millimeter feature film shot on Michigan State's campus. And it
Wow.
went on, started in 93, finished in 99, and it got picked up for distribution in 1999 by Discovery, like the Discovery Channel in Los Angeles. So that really was the catalyst that brought me out here. And I was teaching film, French, geography, and every other subject in high school, and coaching varsity volleyball in high school. And we got the call, and a dear friend of mine, who I had met during college at a girlfriend's wedding, um, went to Georgetown, and she called me every day and said, "When are you moving to California? When are you moving to California?" And I'm like, "I'm not moving to California." And eventually the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I
Right.
moved in March of 99, and I took a leap of faith. I literally mid year asked the principal if I could stop teaching and come back to my kids' graduation and come back in the fall. And they were so excited about the film that, of course, they said, "Yes, you can go." So I put a pause right in the middle of the school year, almost at the end in March, and packed up my car and my mother, and we drove cross country from Detroit to Los Angeles. She stayed for 2 weeks, and I flew her home. And then literally I was left in Los Angeles, like without a job, without knowing anybody. And within
Wow.
2 weeks of me being there, my friend who brought me out there, her dad was the president of the Automotive Hall of Fame. And he had this girlfriend, that was his girlfriend, in high school. And she lived in Los Angeles and ran a temp agency. So this woman hooked us up, and we both got these fabulous jobs. And I started to work for a whole bunch of people of notoriety. And it just sort of spitballed from there. And
Wow.
I'll segue that I went through this whole film thing first, and I realized I could be doing this for the rest of my life. And
Hmm.
that's what I want to be doing, or do I want to be doing something else? And that catapulted me to a feature film that I was asked to produce with somebody
Wow.
super famous. And I can't talk about it because it didn't go the right way, but so famous that their album got picked up and it went triple gold platinum after me working on the film and producing it for 2 years. That they were the
Wow.
executive producer. When their album got picked up, they left us high and dry. And
Oh,
literally, after 2 years of me working on this feature film with no income, no paycheck, I literally was like, what am I going to do? I was buying stuff from the Salvation Army and redoing it and repainting it and recovering it and selling it on eBay to pay my rent. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I told the director, I need your help. I need a job. And she said, I have these really nice people that posted on some cork board that they need a real estate assistant. I'm like, no, 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 not me, not real estate. Love houses, but that's not for me. And I hesitated. And she said, please, these are really good people. Go meet with them. I met with them. They offered me a job on the spot. It's like making a paper, like like the free papers in the corner of like real estate
right.
section. And I was
Yep.
like, no, 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 no. And I had some advertising experience from working for a family member who owns an ad agency in LA. And I was like, nope, not for me. I told them what they should do. I thanked them. We connected. I hugged, and I walked out. And I said, thank you so much for the opportunity. Keep in touch. And 3 days went by, and they called me back and they said, we cannot stop thinking about you. Your
Oh,
personality, your energy, everything you brought to the table was dynamic. What if we were to, like, we heard you in the film life, what if we were to take that role and segue it somehow into what we're doing in real estate? And we'll give you any title you want. And how much do we need to pay you for you to say yes? And that was like
wow.
my first real experience. And I was like, wow, and I had made really good money. I'd worked literally since I was 10, babysitting, mowing lawns, shoveling snow. So I have this like Midwest work mentality,
Yeah.
and I like to use my hands. I know how to fix things, watches and bikes and cars and houses and things. And so I said, okay, I'm going to ask for the moon. And I asked for a lot of money. And,
Sorry.
bless you, at that time for what I wanted to be paid. And they said, okay, let's figure it out. And I was
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, ask and you shall receive. So I started with them. And what they were doing is they were bringing a major real estate franchise to the
Mm.
California market. And it was the first one of its kind. And I went on to help them open and facilitate 19 offices for that
Wow.
brand and brokerage. And my little superhero power, how it became something, is I figured out how to cut out the general contractor and play that role myself from a little of experience I had during filmmaking. So making a film and building like a project or construction. It's literally the same thing with a different
Right.
cast of characters and a different amount of players. So I was able to help cut out the general contractor, and I hired individual licensed contractor subs, and I saved each office and franchise, I don't even know, anywhere from $300 to $500,000 in building one of their franchises. And when one of the owners caught on, the word spread like a wildfire. And literally, I had 9 contracts at the same time building these offices from way down south in Newport Beach all the way up to like Santa Barbara. And so I completed 19 projects for them. It was an amazing
Wow.
experience. But while I was on that job, the people I was working for kept saying, "You should get your license. You're a people person. You connect really well. You should." I hesitated. So, you know how back in the day, everyone had escrow, and, I had all these people they were tying to their, real estate businesses. And they said, "We want to open up a real estate school. So you're working for us. You need to get your license." So they paid for me to get my license. I went and got my license, and we went to open up the school. And, the guy who was doing it with me, just we figured out it wasn't going to work. It wasn't a great recruiting tool. So we put the kibosh on that, but I had my license. And as I was building one of these really prestigious offices in like a very ritzy area of Los Angeles, I overheard a bunch of men. Nothing against men, but there weren't any women. There really weren't. I was in a
Okay.
room, like think 40 cubicles, and 38 of them were men. So I was in a room
Wow.
building offices with a bunch of men, and I would hear them talking on the phone. And one day I walked into this fancy, I think Beverly Hills, fancy
Yeah.
office, and someone was saying something that was like out of line. And the guy hung up, and I said, "Who are you talking to?" And he goes, "One of my clients." And he swore and said they were not nice and all this. I'm like, "Why would you ever speak to somebody like that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's because they're so difficult." And I kept hearing it over and over again.
Wow.
And I was thinking to myself, how could it be if I actually did something and showed up differently for those people that he was talking to? And the house that he was talking to was, I don't even know, it was like a $10 million house. It was like a lot of money back in the day. I mean, it's a lot of money now, but it was a huge listing in this really prestigious area. And that's how he talked to the owner. And my mother would be like rolling over in her, grave if I ever
Right.
spoke like that to anybody. So that kind of like, again, was the reason why I was like, well, I can do this. Well, then we all know what happened. The market crashed, and there was this moment, there was no more building offices, and there was nothing, nobody was spending money on materials or anything. So the owners came to me and said, "Well, you worked at escrow, you helped us build the offices, you helped us do the real estate school, you did everything, and now there's no money left and we cannot pay you. So you have two choices. You can try to be a
Wow.
real estate agent, or you can go back to being a film producer." And there was this little voice inside of me that wouldn't stop. They call it the drunk monkey or the backseat driver or whatever. And that little voice, like, give this a shot. And they sent me to a class because every good real estate brokerage has a class that they offer you. They sent me to
Right.
class, and it was 8 weeks long. They paid for it and told me I had to pay them back, every closing. And in the third week I took this class, I was doing exactly what they told me, sitting down, being of service, sitting in the office. I had a friend who was a mentor, like an older mega agent, and she was kind of like shadowing me. And I was at the office at 5 o'clock on a Friday. A phone call came in, and the person at the front desk was yelling to the cubicles, "Does anybody know anything about short sales?"
Oh
And
God.
I had just taken a class, because that's what we do, take a lot of classes for nothing, that got me certified as a short sale specialist, even though I hadn't sold hardly any homes. But I took this class and I was fascinated by it. So this call came in, talked to the guy, and he says to me, "I have a problem. My house is going to get foreclosed upon. It's listed with somebody in your office." And I said, "Oh, who is it?" And they told me. I said, "I don't even know who that is. I can't talk to you until, when does your listing expire?" And he goes, "What time is it?" And I'm like, 5:04. And he's like, "It expired at 5 o'clock today." I'm like, "Great. You coming here, or am I coming to your house?" And I got the guy to come to the office. He drove from Beverly Hills to Marina Del Rey, which is like an hour drive on a Friday at 5 o'clock. He sat
Right.
in my
That's true.
office, and I signed my first $1 million listing, which happened to
Wow.
been a short that turned into a foreclosure. And what happened was I ended up negotiating it, hired a lawyer, teamed up with them, and the bank gave us a bonus. And I got that paycheck 21 days after signing the listing agreement. And it was more
Wow.
money that I had made almost in the previous year. And I took that check and I was like, "Okay, this is awesome. Repeat."
That is incredible. What a story. Oh my gosh. You did
So
so
that's how
much.
it started. And that's how I got
That
from there to here.
It's accidental a lot of times. An article was written once about me called "Accidentally on Purpose," and a lot of stuff happens like that. And that's you had that pivotal moment where it just went. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back, and we're going to continue with Rebecca Sekulich, top producer out of LA. Thank you. Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio. We are here today with Rebecca Sekulich. Now, Rebecca, we spoke yesterday for a minute. Well, first of all, we connected on LinkedIn a couple months ago, and that's how it happened. And
Yep.
we have a really good friend with the last name Sekulich, so I thought maybe it was a daughter of a daughter or something, but I don't think there's a relation. Well, they live in Walnut Creek, California. I don't know if you have relatives in Walnut Creek, but their last
I
name is
think
Sekulich.
I think I know who you're talking about, but we are not related. There's very few of us, but I
That's what I
most of my
thought.
people are in Michigan.
Okay, and they're in California. So we connected that way, and then yesterday, because time had passed before when we made this appointment. So, can you tell us where you are today and who you're hanging
Right
out
now,
with, and who you're more importantly, who you're hanging out with today or this week?
um, I'm not really. Well, yeah, yes, I can tell you. So I'm in Florida right now, and I was here for the Aspire tour, which is this, amazing like tour that goes around and they bring a whole bunch of lovely, famous people to speak. And I had the privilege of getting to hear David Goggins and
Oh, wow.
Barbara Corcoran and Tim Story this week, and a lot of others. And it was just a great conference, like from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it was just jam packed. But the real reason I was here is I was invited by Barbara Corcoran's sister, Janine, asked me if I would like to come down. And so I came down and was, lovingly enough, had a private dinner with Barbara and Janine, and we had a wonderful day full of everything you could imagine that would be inspirational and entrepreneurial,
I
and
bet.
just super super inspiring to be in a room with, I always say one of my favorite things to say, standing on the shoulders of giants.
Right. That's incredible. That is so funny. So I have a Compass. I'm part of Compass in Northern California, and you work, no, yes, I'm Corcoran in Northern California, and you're with Compass. And then you're hanging
Yes.
out with Barbara, which is then, and her sister, which I did not know. And then you told me they have 9 siblings in their family, which I think a lot of times what I used to work in rentals when movie people would be coming, to Northern California, and we would rent to them when they were coming into town. And I always was curious. And so Joan Cusack was one of them and a few other people. And I'd ask them their story and how they got into it. And a lot of them were working class people, came from working class families, and they came from big families. And so it was really about working hard and getting out and, and their drive. And so it's so interesting. So Barbara coming from a big family, she was kind of I'm sure she was working hard like her sister who owns some franchises there. So super fascinating. And Aspire sounds really great. So let's let me let's go to that. I did not know why you were there. What were some of the key points you took away from that? Just being and hearing from all these incredibly talented and successful people.
Well, obviously, I mean, I loved seeing Barbara. I mean, it was the first time I'd actually seen her speak on stage live, and it was more like a question and answer rather than her doing a presentation. So her whole story is just completely inspirational. She emphasized how like so many things in her life, especially about emotional intelligence and overcoming failure, and where she was from, and how she was not good enough in school, and all these things, and her mother always built her up, and she has a very unique story, and I've learned so much in the past about her, especially being good friends with her sister. There's actually 10 of them, so I should say that there's
Wow.
10 siblings. um yeah, so
Huge.
that's just it was that was probably my favorite part, is hearing her, because it was really a personal conversation, and the question and answers just loving, where you don't get up there and talk about what you want to talk about. You're pulling from what the audience wants to talk about, what the presenters want to talk about. So
Mhm.
for me, it's like she just had so many setbacks and was able to overcome all those little failures, and literally she is the queen of New York real estate, and the queen of resilience. Like that, I
Right.
feel like that is her word. She's been able to build this empire, and she's just a lovely human being. That's what I have to say. All in all, she's just a kind, real, down to earth, lovely person. And that was my takeaway.
Yeah, she seems like that. She comes across like that, especially in her social media. She seems to be very funny, and it's really refreshing to hear that that is who she is. Sometimes we see people and they're not who they portray themselves, and then you're kind of bummed. So it's nice that that is who she is, and she seems very authentic and funny. She seems pretty funny too.
Yes, hilarious.
Anyone else of the group that spoke that really resonated with you?
I really wanted to see David Goggins, and I did. I saw him. He was amazing, super dynamic, and he's got an interesting story as well. But he really came, he like pivoted and switched gears a little bit. There was a lot of talk of people were questioning, not questioning, but they were talking about his faith, and God came up a lot, which I'm not sure he
Hmm.
was prepared to talk about. But he has like super strong faith, which is always lovely to hear, and that's why he gets up. But people were asking a lot of questions that were, I don't even know, like, how do I overcome certain objections and fears, and how do I get through these terrible things that have happened to me over my life? And he was just like, it comes from within. You just
Hmm.
have to get up. And he probably swore, I don't even know, he dropped the F-bomb at least, I don't even know, 50 times during his presentation. He's like, you just have to do it. Like how do you get up in the morning when you've had all these awful things happen to you, or you've lost everything? Or we've just gone through it in Los Angeles. We've had 16,000 structures burned down this
Hmm.
year, and it's like, how do you get up in the morning and move forward? And he was just like, it has to come within. You can't have any person, there's no David Goggins, there's no Barbara Corcoran, there's no Martha Stewart or Celine Dion telling you this is what you need to do. It has to literally be burning inside of you. And I feel very similarly to that I have to tell myself every day. Sometimes I have to feel like I have to get up, and whatever
Hmm.
is on the agenda for that day, I'm winning an Academy Award for. And how can I give? It's not that I'm pretending or acting, it's how can
Right.
I pivot my best self to play the role I need to play today? Today, I was playing the role of real estate entrepreneur in the morning, and then beachgoer during the day. And then here we are, cleaned up and on a podcast. And we pivot. And pivot's been a word we've been using since the pandemic, and I'll use it over and over again. And I think that message really hit home with David, that we just have to tell ourselves, it doesn't matter the why. I could go to Mel Robbins too. She goes, the 5 second rule. Like, you're in the morning and it's like, you just count yourself, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of bed. And there's just no choice. And you have to make the decision, and you have to do it yourself. And no alarm, no husband, no wife, no partner, no nobody is going to be there pulling you out if you don't have the drive. So if you want to be successful, you literally have to work at it. That's why they call it work. It takes a lot of work, and you have to have a plan. And if you're not willing to work, you don't have a plan, it's probably not going to work out.
That is 1,000%. So I just love everything you said. So I did not know who David Goggins was until a year and a half ago. My son, we were in, I just have to paint a picture. We grew up in Piedmont, a little affluent town, knew nothing about the military. That was something that other people did, which is great. And I thank them every day of my life. But I knew nothing about the military. Our family knew, had no involvement in the military. Well, my son was turning 28 and we were sitting in St. Bart's in a very luxurious vacation, and he dropped the bomb on me. Didn't, no pun intended. He said, I'm going to officer candidate school. And well, first he said the initials, and I'm blanking now because I put everything out of my mind. But I said, what do you mean? I said, I don't understand. I said, I don't understand. Where did this come from? He was an athlete. He played lacrosse throughout his life. Long and the short of it, I had to be a supportive mom. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. And this was at Christmas time a year ago. And I said, okay, I cried, of course, and I didn't know. So when I don't know something, I immerse myself into understanding. So for the next couple weeks, I watched everything there was on military. I watched what officer candidate school was. I completely learned everything. I knew more than my son knew, who was going. I went through the whole website. I knew everything. When I say everything, then somehow I read on Audible David's book. I had no idea again who he was, but
Hmm.
I figured I'm going Navy SEAL. This is not what he's doing, but I'm going to go the hardest of the hardest to try to understand the mindset. And so when you talk about his book, I know exactly. He was a huge man. And when you go through, David was a very large man, but and came from awful circumstances. And when you listen to his story and how the military was against him and they did horrible things to him. I picture when, I don't know if you read the book, but I picture when they threw him in the dark ocean away from all of his, during training, away from all of his um, colleagues by himself. He should have died a number of times, and holding him under the water beyond. And he failed the first one or two times and went back again for this punishment. So I mean, so all I could see exactly what you said. It was mindset and it was in here. There was no way any human could do that unless it was you. Like he said, he wasn't feeling the pain. He was just doing it, and he did it. And it's so I mean, it's just I understand it's 100% mindset, and that's what I believe. I'm writing a book right now called Mindset in Motion, and it is everything we do. So what happened after that? Sorry, I'm talking so much, but after Chase was going to go do that, I said, I've got to, he said, I want to challenge myself. And I said, what does that mean? So I said, what does that mean to me? So on the eve, a couple months before my 60th birthday, I said, I'm going to run a half marathon. Well, I ended up running 3 Spartan races, a half marathon trail, a full marathon, no training, only on mindset. And I didn't tell anyone I was going to do it because people would say you're crazy. I mean, you don't even run like, 2 miles
Hmm.
and then a marathon. So I ended up doing it. I completed it, but I only told my husband, and I did tell my kids, and I did it. But I wanted to prove what David did in his book and life, that it is mindset. I'm physically feel good, let's see what could happen. My legs were screaming afterwards, but I did it. So let's go to your story. You lost 200 pounds and David lost about that or more. So tell me about your journey to lose 200 pounds. That is no easy feat.
Yeah, and I it's a very sensitive, vulnerable subject for me because it's been a lifelong journey. It's not I come across people all the time who are like, yeah, it was normal all through my childhood. And, when I got to college or after I got married and had 5 babies, then I, became overweight and became obese or morbidly obese. And for me, it's literally been a lifelong journey. I was a chubby child. I mean, even from the youngest pictures, I was cute and everything, but I was just a chubby child. And I had my mother, when I was in high school, was tipping the scales at 500 pounds. And that is just not, not normal. And we were in a world 30 some 40 years ago where it wasn't normal. It's not normal now, but nobody talked about it. And so
Right.
for me, I feel like, I got the gene. My mother was extremely overweight and my
Mm.
father wasn't thin, athletic body. And I have 2 brothers, and it's like one, got that thin athletic body, and the other one, got exactly half of each of my parents. And I feel like I, got dealt all of my dad's building. He was an engineer at Ford for 37 years. And so I got all of his tactile creative, everything. And I got my mother's gentleness and everything. And I got her, gene of obesity, of being overweight. And we do know now that obesity is a disease. And I have
Mhm.
had it my whole life. And no matter what I did, I mean, starting at the age of 14, the only solution they had was, pop the Slim Fast tab and send you to the doctor and put you on a bunch of, fen. That's what happened to me. So it literally was, that's what started the journey. And I got to college, and the freshman 15 becomes the freshman 25, and
Right.
there was nothing I could do. I was an athlete, and I was a really good one, and it's like no matter what I did, I kept gaining weight. I couldn't really figure out why. So it's just been it's like there is no one thing. There's no magic pill. It's not like, oh, do this and you're going to be thin and
Right.
healthy for the rest of your life. For me, it has been literally almost 40 years of trying to get to the body that you're seeing today. And I feel like
Mhm.
I've climbed Mount Everest 100 times, because I gained and lost the same 100 pounds like 8 or 9 times. And my doctor finally said to me, you cannot do that. If it's so
Mm.
bad for your heart, you're going to have a heart attack and you're going to die. And really, I've never talked about it, so I will talk about it right now because I feel like it's important. But
Oh,
when my
very.
mother, yeah, when my mother, as she was aging, things started not to work and function, and her brain and everything was there. But, she decided that, that we needed to do something about it. And so I brought her to Los Angeles, and she was going to stay with me instead of going to our family's home in Florida, like a snowbird. And so I asked her if she wanted to come and stay with me for 6 weeks, and she came to stay with me, and she had a minor procedure, a weight loss procedure. And 3 weeks later, she had a cardiac arrest on my living room floor, went into a
Oh,
coma, laid in a coma for 17 days, and she passed away.
oh, I'm
And
sorry.
so, yeah. And, I blamed myself, really vulnerably. I blamed myself for a long time. And there are two things they don't teach us about in school when we're growing up. They do not teach us about grief and dying and death at all.
Mm.
And they don't teach us about finances, which I feel like needs to change. Both of those
Yeah.
things need to get integrated. And with my child, I try to talk about both of them a lot. So when my mom passed away, I felt super responsible, and
Mm.
that that I killed my mother, and carried that with me for a very long time. And I actually know now, she passed away in 2014. So it's been 11 years right now, that I know wholeheartedly that that opportunity that she needed to take needed to happen. And that she probably, I'm not glad she's gone, but she
Right.
was not in a great place. And I didn't realize how bad it was.
Mm.
So I feel like I saved her in a way from the
Mhm.
suffering that could have occurred, because you don't see a 500-pound 73-year-old walking this planet. The fact that she could get out of bed and walk was miraculous, and
Wow.
wasn't confined to a wheelchair. So we were just trying to make it better. But now
Yeah.
in my tender elder age, I know that even if she would have lost 200, 300 pounds, that there comes with that a whole bunch of complications. And those are the things that I'm dealing with. You can't just lose this weight. And I mean, I've lost the weight, and I've had skin surgery. I've had skin removal surgery on my stomach, on my legs. It doesn't go away. And there's no amount of weightlifting I could do,
Right.
or exercising or running to make any of that go away. So I just feel like it's a lot of little tweaks, and a lot of things happened over 40 years to get me to this point. And I could literally talk about it for 10 hours, but not on this podcast. But
Right.
it comes from perseverance,
Mhm.
resilience, and the dedication that I don't want to show up for my child that way. And I want to live the healthiest life I can possible, so that I can be there for her, well into my 90s, because I'm parentless. Both my parents are gone now, and I sometimes I feel like a real estate slash parentless orphan, and I don't want that to happen. So health was my number one priority, and it's just taken a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money, and a lot of trying literally hundreds of things. If you name something, I have done it. There would not be a box I couldn't check. I've done the craziest. Can I swear on this podcast? I mean, I
Yeah.
literally have done the craziest shit on the planet. It's like, oh, take this non-psychedelic mushroom and put it with this, like flower and like dip it in incense and, like smell it. And you're like, to try to lose weight. So you name it, I've done. I've read hundreds of books and I've gone to,
Right.
people and things. And so it's just been a lot, but I am here. And all I can say is the consistency and persistency over time is paid off. And when you get dialed in, like that's what happens. And, here we are. I'm happy as a clam. I
Well,
feel
you
like
look
really
great.
great.
You
I
look
feel like I look
amazing.
great. I have not had a facelift yet or anything, so
Wow.
it's like,
You
I
look
feel like
great.
everything's just because it was slow. I mean, it's been literally been 20, it's been 35 years of me trying to take off this weight. 35 years. And
Wow.
it's like just a little bit, like a little bit here. And it's like I lost 100 pounds really quickly 20 years ago, and then I could never lose the next 100 pounds. And I literally spent the last 20 years of my life trying to lose the next 100 pounds with everything you can imagine. And it just, wouldn't happen. And then it's like you get into this rhythm and you find the
Mhm.
system and model. And of course, medical assistants and doctors and what's going on, everything helps. It all helps. And now we're here. So here we are.
Well,
And I couldn't be
congratulations.
happier.
You look amazing, and I'm
Thank
sure
you.
that I mean, your attitude and your mindset and your perseverance goes into real estate very seamlessly because you have that drive for yourself and you want to help others like you have children and you have parents that you wanted to help and so it's amazing. It's no, it's not easy and it's an incredible story. Let's dive into what are 5 things that you would guide a new agent or a seasoned agent who maybe hasn't embraced all the new technology that we have today? So what are 5 things you would tell a new or a seasoned agent that they should do in real estate as their yes in real estate?
There are those overachievers out there. I'm not sure if you were one of them, or I actually wasn't one of them. But one of the things that I know that works is that every new agent, if you think you can do it on yourself on your own, you can go ahead and try. But you're going to get there 10 times faster if you find somebody to mentor and shadow and stick to them like Velcro for as long as you can. Go on every single appointment, go on every listing appointment, go on every buyer's consult, go and it dive into real estate head first and absorb as much as you can. And if you find a person that is good enough and who will do that with you and spend that time with you, that is priceless. I had it and I sort of had it, but I didn't have it. I had it, but the person I had it with was busy building franchises and not really doing real estate. So I learned a lot by observation, but I was also trying to build offices and not sell houses. So when I restarted, I had, a mega agent as a mentor, and that was super helpful. I closed my first 3 deals and paid them a percentage of that. And without that knowledge, with age comes
Hmm.
wisdom and
Right.
experience. So it's like my big, I don't know if that was one, two, three, or four or five, but having
I
a
know.
mentor is my number one piece of advice. And I don't care how much it costs, whether you're
Absolutely.
paying them a flat fee or 50% of every deal, or you're closing one of their deals, do it. And that leads me into point number two is everyone can do things. We have AI now, we have ChatGPT and all these wonderful tools that pretty much can do everything for you now that wasn't able for us to be done
Right.
25 years ago. So learn how to do everything, learn all your contracts. Even though the real estate exam is just a bunch of BS and it's like we never use anything from it. It's like, I don't even know why we have to take it, but it's ridiculous. You won't use anything from that exam in real life, but do all your contracts, don't hire a transaction coordinator, do it yourself until you know them like the back of your hand and make sure.
Mhm.
That's point two. Point tip number three would be keep always be educating yourself. Go to
Mhm.
every class, every seminar, every coaching group, every mastermind, every office meeting, because it's not like losing weight. It's not one thing. It's a myriad and a plethora of little tiny tweaks that if you can, you know, add to your toolbox, it will get you
Mhm.
from point A to point B 100 times faster. And be resourceful. That's point number four, is that if you can't figure out what the answer to a question is, ask until you get a yes. I learned in my
Yep.
first year of real estate, no means next. The
Mm.
big bumper sticker I have, no means next. If somebody says, no, you're knocking on a door, how would you like to buy a house? Nope, slam the door in your face. Doesn't mean anything. Go on to the next door. And eventually, 50, 75, 150 doors later, somebody is going to say yes to you. And that's what happened to
Right.
me on my first deal. Somebody said yes after 1,743 phone
Wow.
calls. Somebody
Wow.
said yes.
Wow. That's incredible. Those are very
Was that
incredible.
five? There was maybe like 12 in there, but I rolled them
Yeah,
into it.
no.
So
I was the what I call when you the number one you talked about get a mentor. Absolutely. It's kind of getting your MBA, whether you're paying for it or you're giving a little something or you're not, you just follow those people around. Like you said, it's so important to learn to see how are they doing it? How are they speaking? It's invaluable and it's not easy for the person because you're kind of infringing on what they're doing or you're focusing on your client. So if they allow you to go with you, you should absolutely 100% take advantage of that because that is how we learn, by listening, and many conversations, listening how agents are talking. I always have our new agents go and sit next to my husband Adam, who's my partner and broker, and he's in the office and he's talking to all of the 80 agents over time. And as he's hearing, their an agent who's trying to learn, hearing things that they may not ever touch upon in their career, but they're understanding and hearing how he speaks to them, and they're a little bit of knowledge over and over again is so important. So yeah, that's definitely a big one. And learning your contracts and learning all there is to do. And don't just, oh, I can, copy that, or I can have my transaction. If you don't know the business, you're not going to be a very good agent. So all of the points were very good. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with Rebecca Sekulich. Thank you. Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio. We are here today with Rebecca Sekulich, who is out of the Los Angeles area. Where in Los Angeles Los Angeles is very big, so where do you practice real estate?
my office is in Santa Monica at the
Oh, okay.
beach,
Okay. And I have a place in
literally
West
right
Hollywood.
across the street.
Oh, okay, great. And I have a place in West Hollywood. I'm mostly in Northern California, but I have a place in West Hollywood. So we'll get together for coffee
Yeah,
sometime or lunch. Anyway,
please.
it's almost the end of the show. I want to hear, what is one of your most inspirational stories that you can share with us and how you may have helped a client?
Oh, one of my favorite questions. I love talking about this. So
Oh,
for me, I think about how I got from point A, to Z over here, or maybe, D. We're not even done yet. So
right.
about 15 years ago, a friend of mine came to me, like a you, and said, hey, I have this client and she needs to sell her home. And, I want to know, give me your 10 cents. Now, back 15 years ago, there was only a few cents to give because I'm not where I am now. But I had just sort of started on this and she knew I was really resourceful. So I went over to this woman's house and I could tell like she was around 70 years old. She lived in it like for the last probably 25 years. She sunk all of her money into buying it. She loved it. But as she retired, she couldn't really afford to stay there. I mean, it was a single family home within a PUD, a planned urban development. We don't have a lot of those in Los Angeles, but with that come like, monthly HOA fees. But even though you have a single family house, it's like they're maintaining it was on a golf course. And so her fees were going up and she wasn't getting any income. So I looked at her house and She had met with a couple of other agents, and they all told her that her house was worth about $150,000. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but remember, this is 15 years ago, and this was like not in a really well off, nice area of Los Angeles. Um, and met with five other agents. So I go in there for my friend's recommendation, and I say to her, is there any way you have any extra money to do anything? If I could just do a few little things. And she said, no, Rebecca, I really don't. And I said, do you believe in God? I actually asked her. I don't tell this very often. And she said, I do. And I said, do you have faith? And she goes, I do. I said, will you put your faith in me that if I handle this, can I make a few changes to your house and I'm going to figure out how to pay for it? And if I do that, will you pay me the small amount of money back through the close of escrow? I won't charge you anything. But I know that if I do these few things, I can get you a lot more money for your house. And she asked a lot of questions and she goes, I do
Sure.
have faith. For some reason you walked in here and you talk with conviction and I believe you. So
Oh,
yes, if you're willing to go figure this out, figure it out. So let me rewind back 15 years prior. I don't think I had two nickels to rub together. I could make my car payment and my rent and everything, but I didn't own a property back then, or I have several now, nothing. And so I had to put on my producer hat, and this is where my film training transitions over into real estate. I was like, what did we do to make movies happen? Well, I was like, I'm going to be resourceful. So I went and opened a Home Depot and a Lowe's credit card, and actually a third credit card. And I had
that's
this guy who was working in our apartment building that I lived at that I had become friends with. Because he's kind of like the local handyman who would come and fix things whenever. And he came to me one day and he's like, Rebecca, he's like, if you ever have any extra work, I do things on nights and weekends for extra money so that I can save for my kids to go to college. And I'm like, okay. So I went to this guy and I said, look, I have no cash to pay you, but I have three credit cards. I have a Home Depot, a Lowe's, and another credit card. I said, if I go and buy all the materials, can I buy things for you to add to your business? Like new
oh,
drill, new saw, new whatever you need
oh
in
my
the
God.
trade. If you need clothing, uniforms, shoes, whatever. And he thought that was a brilliant idea because he had never had any tools that were new or his own. He had like a toolbox. So literally, I spent $12,000, and in
Oh, wow.
3 weeks, I was able to put new flooring in. I put all new lights, all new fixtures. I did. I changed out all the lights in the kitchen and the bathroom. I put a couple new toilets in. I did some light landscaping, painted the front door, new house numbers, all for $12,000 15 years ago. Did
That's amazing.
that. We listed the house. I ended up selling the house for over $300,000 on a
Wow.
$12,000 investment. And I was nervous. I'm like, oh, my land, is it going to appraise and all these other things? But literally, the woman walked away for like 50% more than she actually already had. So she was able to sell this house in Los Angeles, take the cash out of it, and go buy her home in Phoenix, Arizona, where she still lives
Oh,
today. And she's still alive. She's like 85 or
oh,
86 years old. And she still sends me a Christmas card every year, and I still send her one. And every year there was just me, and then there was no kid, and all this stuff. And so we see each other's lives evolving. And she always writes me a little personal one sentence. I still remember you, and I still thank you for everything you did to get me to this life. And for that, like that
oh.
is my why I get up in the morning, because that little resourcefulness
Mhm.
and thinking out of the box changed her life for the better, and she's still in my life. So whenever I think that I can't do something, I think of her and think of that journey, and thinking of me having nothing, no money, nothing but faith. And that's what I was taught from growing up, that faith is as the mustard seed. You can move mountains, and I have moved mountain after mountain after mountain, and they just keep getting a little bit bigger. And I have done that now. You said 80 in my intro, but I just finished
Yes.
my 92nd remodel this week. So I
Wow.
have 89 and 90 are on the market. 90 and 91 are going on the market this week. And so I could
I,
not be happier that it's taken that long to do this
uh,
journey. And
that's incredible. What a great story. No, that, and I think a lot of times in real estate, it's not fun. We sometimes have, little hiccups and things, and or people that maybe don't aren't kind or whatever, or we have deals that don't close, and we have all kinds of ups and downs. And but then when we have a story like that and you help someone like that, it just feels so great. And then you say, this is why I do it, because to have someone, and you still know her and you still know that story and you still share that story, it's just that's what makes us do it, is that it feels so good. And I also love the process of getting the house ready. I'm sure you do too, is just transforming. We just finished a house, and
Yeah.
I just sent the link to, if someone had seen it before, and he doesn't know me that well. We just started working together, and I sent him the link just because it was night and day of just night and day, and it's so fun. And I always say lighting is jewelry for the home, and clearly you added a lot of jewelry. You get that too with the adding the light.
Yes.
It's just, that's such a great story. And I know it helps. It's so nice when you can change. I had a similar story with someone who they were giving him a low ball price. And I said, just let us do it. Let us do the makeover. And he was so excited after we ended up getting twice as much as he thought he would. So tell us, what are your favorite things? So you work in the Santa Monica area. What are your favorite things about Santa Monica, and how could people get a hold of you? But give us a few of your favorite things, why you love Santa Monica and the areas that you serve.
First of all, being near the water, I'm from Michigan. We're surrounded by water, so it was important to me to be, near the water. I love being in, on, around. I love to sail. I'm a rower. I haven't been doing it a lot lately because of what's been going on with the fires and my kid, but I fell in love with rowing and sailing. If I'm on a boat, I'm happy. So I'm at the beach a lot, and then especially in the summertime, we make it a habit to go at least once or twice a week. There's so many things. One of the best parts of LA is the weather. And the other best part about LA is the food and all of the things to do. There's so many things to do on a given week. There's hundreds of things for free, that you can do. Funnily enough, I have a video on my Instagram. It's not about real estate whatsoever, but it's about one of the free things that's available. It's called Walt Disney's Barn at Griffith Park. And it's this free thing you can go to where they took his barn out of his Carrollwood estate in Bel Air, and his
Okay.
daughter saved it and she moved it over to Griffith Park, and they gifted her a piece of land, and they
Oh,
brought his ride upon trains and made this little museum, and it's open. It's from 11 to 4 on the third Sunday of every month. I made that video, shot my kid having a blast. I did a voiceover. I have 2.5 million views on that video because
wow.
people love free and they love hyper local content. And they
Yes.
just, so I love things like that because things are expensive. I mean, yes, you could go to Disneyland, but if you can't go to Disneyland and spend $220 for a park hopper one day, why not
Right.
go here? And so thousands of people have been commenting, and I'm trying to constantly always comment back. Yes, it's really free. Yes, the parking's free. Yes, you don't, yes, 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 yes. It's a lot of fun. So I love that about LA. There's something to do literally 7 days a week,
So true.
24, not 24/7, but 365 days of the
Yes.
year. There's something awesome to do. So it brings people here.
Right. It is. It's so great.
Yeah.
And where do your buyers and sellers come from?
How do I get them?
How do
Like
you
my
get them? Or
clients?
where do your buyers tend to come from? Are they coming from locally, or are they coming from out of the area? Let's talk about
A
where the
little
buyers. Yeah.
A little bit of both. And I have a wide array of clients, from really young. I love working with first time buyers because they always think, especially in California, where our median price is like 1.2 million now. It's really expensive and they think that they can't afford to buy. And we have a bunch of special loan programs to help them out
Mhm.
with that and do different things, buy downs and, like interest only loans and things like that, where they're like, wow, if I could actually do this, then I can get a house. And I always love to do that transition with them. So I have a lot of repeat clients. Like, if you can't
Nice.
buy your dream house right now, let's put you into a condo
Mhm.
somewhere that's a little bit less expensive, and then it gain a little bit of equity, sell that in a couple years and move to a house, and then keep that for 10 years, sell that and buy your dream house. And so I have a lot of clients that I've, double, triple, quadruple repeats of them buying and upgrading, or my not my new thing, but I never want them to sell all the time. I'd like to have them keep it to create
Right.
income for them and or
Right.
a legacy for their children. So they always ask me that, well, how can I, have this as an investment property? What could I do to keep that? So I also know a lot about rentals. I have a short-term rental business, mid-term, long-term rentals also. We do a lot. I have a couple in West Hollywood right now, as a matter of fact, that they're mine, and we
Nice.
manage and everything like that. So now we can get the rent for to pay the mortgage, and people are actually still making money. So that's super fun to me to help
Nice.
clients build wealth and build a legacy for whoever they want to, if it's their children or any family members, or even for an organization. I have a lot of clients that don't have any children, and they want to leave their money to some wealthy, or sorry, worthy cause, not wealthy,
Right.
that they want to leave it to. And so real estate's one of the best ways to do that. It's like the easiest way, other than going to the roulette table in Vegas, where you can make money quickly, and the appreciation, the attrition rates are insane,
Mhm.
especially in Los Angeles. And I still think real estate is your best thing you can do. And the younger you can start, if we can instill in our
Right.
children,
Right.
to buy a house rather than renting an apartment or living in a dorm in college. I mean, dorm life, don't get me wrong, it was awesome. As soon as I could get out of that dorm, I was in my sorority house, which was amazing. But if I look back on it, I wish my parents would have bought a condo or a little house and then
Right.
made my friends pay them to pay the mortgage, and keep that and keep renting it year to year, sell it, move up. And
Yes.
I just, everything about real estate helps us get to the next level.
Right. It's fun, but that is true about anyone who's parents or anyone who's listening. If you have kids going to college, that is a very smart one. I had a friend and a client, another realtor who did that on his own. He partnered with his mother, but they bought a big house and he rented to his friends. And it's so smart, such a smart thing to do. So Rebecca, how do people get a hold of you? We're up at the hour already. It was so fun to chat.
Can't believe it.
I
The
know.
easiest way to get a hold of me, I mean, literally, I just tell people to stick my name into Google. I'm
Right.
everywhere. But I mean, I love my Instagram account. It's not my name. I got hacked a couple of years ago. I had a large following, and there was like 85 Rebecca Sekuliches spelled in 85 different ways. So they took my name away from me. So I am House of Sekulich, like, so House of
Oh,
Gucci, but House of
I
Sekulich, my
love it.
last name. Yep, and that's
That's
my handle. And I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. I have YouTube, all of that. So the best way
wonderful.
is put my name into Google, and you'll find me. And my Google My Business is up there with all of my contact information. But I love Instagram. It's probably my number one platform. It's where I do my most. You're getting the real Rebecca. You're not getting a bunch of real. You're getting my child and my life, and what's
Right.
going on in the world. So you're getting all of me. And I try not to shadow or hide anything about my life, because literally they're not buying my brokerage. They're not buying,
No.
they're
Right.
buying me and the
Right.
services I can provide for them, and how I can help create their real estate, dream come true.
You're being your authentic self, which is the most important thing, I think, in real estate, is to be people will connect with you because of you. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was incredible. I hope you get to your flight on time. Say hi to Barbara and her sister, and I look forward to seeing you in LA.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks, sweetie.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Real Estate with host Debbi DiMaggio. Here Fridays, noon Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. Tune in to where real estate matters matter.